the best performing UGC ads we've made at Goodo Studios have all been made by humans. Yes, every single one. Because there's something a real person brings to a camera that no AI tool can actually replicate, or at least the ones that I have seen and tried myself. The audience feels that, and that's the difference on Meta between somebody scrolling and actually stopping to watch your ad. I'm Gattozzi, I'm the founder of Goodo Studios, and we produce performance creative for brands like Barabee, Royal Bread, and so many more. We have helped generate over $100 million in revenue through our ads. A huge part of that comes from finding the right UGC creators. So in this video, I'm going to show you our exact process on how to find the best creators out there. Most brands say that UGC, it doesn't work because of the brief, the editing, the style, but really it's about getting the right creators. And I think the problem is that a lot of brands are focused on pricing, the speed, the follower count, and none of that actually predicts the performance of that creator for you. So a lot of brands are focused on price and speed. That is their filter, and they're not willing to go above that price, and they're really trying to maybe even look for the cheapest ones out there, and that doesn't always give you the best results. The metrics that actually matter are believability, message delivery, and audience match. Let's start with believability. You got to look at their portfolio and say, like, does this person really match, like, would they be actually using my product? Is this somebody that actually would engage in it, is interested in my product, somebody that actually believes in the mission of the brand or company that I am running? Because that is what a viewer is going to be asking. Doesn't have to mean that they look exactly like them, but can they see and sense the enthusiasm about the product and the brand from this creator? And if the creator doesn't really match that energy that you as a brand are putting out, then it's going to be misaligned, and the viewer is going to notice that, and they're not going to really believe the creator, even if it's the best well-written script in the world. Then we look at message delivery, and we want to look at their portfolio and see, like, are they natural on camera? Do they bring enthusiasm? Are they able to go really fast and then really slow with their words and actually like be able to deliver lines as opposed to robotic, monotone, and things like that? What I like to do is, obviously they will have a portfolio where they have ads and things like that, but I want to go onto their socials and I watch their Instagram stories, I watch some of their own personal content, because sometimes, if I'm being honest, if they worked with another brand and another brand didn't do a good job directing them, they might not have had a good ad, but doesn't mean that they are a bad creator. But you got to go and seek out like their own personal content, because that's probably where they are the most natural in terms of their talking and deliverability. And that's where you can kind of see, like, actually, are they good on camera? Because they might have just been directed poorly by some of these other brands on their portfolio. And so you can really kind of find some gems just by looking at like personal content. Then you've got audience match, and you want the creator to match the audience that is your ideal customer, or they are an authority for that audience. Now, there are plenty of times where you can have creators that are not the ideal customer showing up on camera, and there's many ways, so you can always break this rule. But usually, if you want to have good creator content, you want it to come from people that see themselves in the creator itself. And I think that's where you get more aspirational believability when it comes to delivering a script, and I think where viewers will actually connect with the creator itself. There are times where we work with a company whose audience and customer base skews older, but the people that were on camera were a lot younger. I've also even seen things where like somebody is kind of like a fake doctor, but they're like legitimately trying to be, it's just like lying basically. I think you can do like fake doctor kind of funny skits, but I've definitely have seen things where it's like people are pretending to have some sort of authority, which is one, illegal, and just two, not okay. But I've found that a lot of times people, it's hard to get some of those older creators. And so sometimes it's like, if you're talking about something that happens for an older person, like menopause or anti-aging or something like that, but you've got somebody who's like, even if they're in their 30s, it's like, that's a stretch, right? So we want to make sure that the audience match really does match what is being said, because you want to have that believability. Bad casting doesn't just waste the creator fee, it wastes all of the ad spend against that ad ad itself. So if you spend $300 to get a video made, then you're spending another $1,000 on that ad as well to find out that it didn't work. That's $1,300 you're spending, when if you just had really good casting, like, it might have actually gone so much more better in terms of its performance. So if you want to be sure about the ad spend and about the money you're spending and investing in content, make sure you have great creators that match your audience, the message delivery, and that believability. And let's be honest, you can't edit out bad creators on camera. Before you go and look for creators, you need to know what you want. And there are two fundamentally different ways of working with UGC creators, and that actually changes how you go and source those creators. And I'm going to walk you through both of these options. Option A is the full creative service, where they handle everything. They write the script, they film it, and they edit it and send it off to you. This is actually great for brands when they don't have any creative strategy or editing capacity internally. But there are trade-offs. It usually can cost more per asset. You may not have as much control over the finished edit and delivery. And it is a bit limited in terms of what you can iterate, because you usually would have to pay extra for raw assets. So you're usually just paying for that finished deliverable. So you really, it can be hard to iterate off of it when there's text on screen, music, etc. There is a bit of a ceiling problem, which is when you have this ad and it does start to take off and you want to edit it, maybe test a new hook, do something with it, you just are limited because you just have that final asset and you don't have the raw footage. And that leads us to option B, which is the creator shoots the content and then you handle everything else. The creator will film all of the raw content, but you have to write the script, edit the content once they send that back, and then you are in charge of the angle and all of the creative strategy that goes with it. This is how Goodo Studios does it, and this is my preferred method. It allows us to have full creative control. We're able to iterate if we need to make any changes. We can use this footage for future ads, different ads, and ultimately, like, if we needed to improve it or whatever, we have the raw content to make those changes and have that full control. Really, it's the creator's job to show up, perform well on camera, and then make sure that they're delivering the content on time to us. The trade-off is that it's more work on your end because you have to coordinate everything from the creative strategy, getting content from the creators, and then all of the editing and then back and forth. So there is more work, but you do have more control. So you just have to be ready and know what capabilities you do have internally or not. Pricing is simpler because you can just do a flat rate, make sure you get usage rights, and call it a day. Now I want to share where we source our UGC creators. And I think over time this has kind of developed and changed, but the first and foremost thing is that you have to have your own database of creators. And what I mean by that is that you want to have a place where as you work with people, you can keep their contacts, and then if you like them, you can always reach back out to them for more projects and things like that. I find that if you have to always go to different platforms, which we'll talk about, you're always kind of starting from scratch, right? So it's worth you taking the time to actually build out kind of like a little mini CRM, if you will, of creators. It can just be a simple table with names and contacts and if you like them or not, and a link to their portfolio. But it is really helpful to do that. We have it a bit more built out where there's things like their age, what they like to shoot, what they're good at shooting, their gender, and we can filter and find those people a little bit faster. But just having something there is really great as you start to go out and search for great creators. Here are the platforms that we have used. I'm not ranking these as like which ones are the best to use or whatever, because everything's going to always be a hit or miss and there's going to be overlaps and stuff like that. But this is where I think can be helpful. So one is, you can definitely use Backstage. That's a volume play. Like there's going to be a lot of people that are going to respond to your casting calls. You're not going to get all of those being high quality, and a lot of them don't even like respond. So like, again, it's a numbers game. You're going to find some good people there, but not every single one is incredible. You can do some smaller paid communities. Like there's a Hive House, which is one that I know about and we use. There's another thing called Creator Vault. Those are ones that we've used. There are more platforms out there that are kind of more like software companies. And, you know, I think if you are just a solo brand, it's definitely really good. The problem if you're like an agency or studio like us is like they want us to do like all of our communication and everything through the platform, and that just doesn't really work for us. So we don't like to use software platforms because they're trying to own our relationship with the creators and things like that, and it's just like gets really messy. So we kind of avoid those. But I've heard good things about certain ones. And then the last thing is just like you got to do the work. Go on TikTok, go on Instagram, start scrolling, search for different creators. You can find great creators who will do great work for you, and they're already publishing online. So go and try to find those people. They may not even be searching for UGC jobs, but they will totally be down to making content. So you got to do the work to go out and find and source your own people as well. Now that you've got some creators, you want to actually filter out, are they good or not? So here are the things to look for, and here are some red flags as well. You want to see if they've had previous UGC work. Now, I think that even if they haven't directly worked with that company, but they've done their own examples or portfolio examples, I think that that's great. A lot of times early in my creative career, I would just make spec ads, and that's how I was able to get work to do real work. I was able to show off my creativity and my ability, and I think the same is true. So you just want to make sure, do they have a portfolio and do you like it? Is it good, right? The other thing you want to be looking at, remember, think about those three things: believability, message delivery, and audience match, right? So you got to look at them. Do they match the audience, right? That's an easier one to say. But then look at how they are talking on camera. Are they natural? Are they finding ways to be interesting? But outside of how they deliver lines, also look at how they're shooting content, right? Are they getting interesting angles? Are they having all the basics down, like good lighting and things like that? But if you are definitely someone like us who is looking for raw footage, you want to be able to say, like, do they have a good eye? Are they going to be able to get enough footage from us? And you can tell that from just how they are putting their videos together and the shots that they are getting. Now, if you decide to hire them, there are definitely great creators to work with and not so great creators to work with. If a creator is very responsive, that's a huge win. The other one is they're asking enough questions, right? Because you might send them a brief, and if they don't ask any questions, it's like you don't know what you're going to get back, and you might completely get something you're like, whoa, this is totally not what I expected. And a lot of times it's because they didn't ask enough questions, so their interpretation of the brief was kind of off. And so if you have creators asking you questions, that's actually a good signal, because it means that they care, and it means they really want to get it right the first time, and it saves both of you a lot of hassle on the edits and having to reshoot and all that chaos. And then when you actually get that footage, do they go and shoot in real environments, right? So there are times where people are kind of lazy. They just like put their phone on and they just film kind of in one little location. They barely get any B-roll, and that's just not great. You want to be working with creators who are going to go above and beyond and get the content and really the B-roll that's going to match the script and make that really believable. Here are some red flags that I would walk away from when it comes to creators. One, they just don't have a portfolio, or the portfolio is looking kind of small. They're negotiating usage rights and a lot of small things. I have a lot of respect for creatives. I am a creative myself. I truly believe in respecting all creative people, right? Like, cause I am that, and I've not been respected every single time when it comes to contracts and things like that. But what I find is that specifically with creators, I don't know if it's some sort of course that they took and everybody said, oh, you gotta get paid for usage rights. But the reality is that if that is the case, it is so much admin work that you put onto us to have to go and find all of these different things. It's like, look, we are paying you to do a job. You either want it or not. So all of the nickeling and diming on usage rights, to me, it's just not worth it. And then I find that they are always going to be harder to work with because, you know, they're just focused way more on the dollar and the short-term outcome versus being like, hey, if this ad works, I will continue to work with you. Like, I want to work with great creators. So if you're a great creator, don't worry about like how long is this ad going to be used. If it's cooking, I will pay you even more. Like I will continue to work with you. But if you're going to be like really hard to work with and nickel and dime every single second before we've even worked together, it's probably a no for me. If their content is stiff and their delivery is really stiff, then I would not continue on, and I would wait for them to actually have like a great presence on camera. This happens a lot where we have somebody who looks great on paper. They check off all the boxes, they show up on camera, they're really great, they seem great to work with, and then they get to doing the work and you get the work back, it's not really great, it seems really lazy, and it feels off from their portfolio. Like their portfolio looks good, but like the content they gave us like doesn't look as good. And then you ask them, hey, what happened here? You know, can you reshoot this? And then they're like, no, I don't want to reshoot this. And one time somebody was like, and I'm actually on vacation now, so I can't shoot it. And it's like, whoa, like the way you showed up on camera is great, but how you ended up working with us was so bad that like we were super late and behind with that client. The client was pissed, obviously. And we were mad too, because it was like this person now is like, didn't tell us that they were going to leave, and then they just like left. So it's like they rushed the content, and it was just such a disappointment for us because we thought we had somebody really great. And so there are a lot of things that even if the portfolio checks all the boxes, how you show up and collaborate is so important. And sometimes that's the make it break it of a good creator from a great creator. Here's a bonus section. We're going to quickly talk about how to brief a UGC creator to get the most out of their performance. You found a great creator, but you got to set them up for success. And a great creator with a bad brief will underperform. So when you give them a brief, you have to be very clear with what are you trying to accomplish with this video. Give them examples, and then in those examples, pull out what you like about them, right? You might say, I like this video and we should make something like it. Why? Like, do you want it to be exact frame for frame the same? Or do you say, oh, I like how this person is talking on camera, but I like how this person in this other video shot blah, 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 right? So pick out the elements that you like from your example video so it's very clear of what you're trying to get at for that creator, so that they're like, oh, okay, I know how to show up on camera. I know what to shoot. I know what to actually accomplish. You want to have the script be very clear. So if you are giving them word for word what you want them to say, then be really clear with that. If you're giving them kind of a more open-ended ability to kind of like yap and talk, like that's fine, but give them structure. Even if you are saying, hey, we want you to like say all of these things, but there are some specifics, like you want the hook to be exactly a certain way, or you need the CTA to be a certain exact like wording or whatever, make sure that that is clear in the script itself or in the brief, because if you don't do that, they are not going to maybe know those things, and that's going to make them reshoot, and it's going to be a bad situation. Then when it comes to the B-roll, you want to make sure that you're really clear about everything that you need. What are all of the angles that you need? Take the extra time to write out that list. Don't just assume that they're going to know what it is. Be very clear. The more clear and robust the brief is, the better result you're going to get. You're going to spend 5 extra minutes on this brief, and you're going to save yourself 10, 20, 50 more minutes later on. So often people just rush the brief, send it to creators, and then they're pissed that the creators didn't do what they wanted. And it's like, well, the brief looks super skinny and it doesn't look like, what are you trying to accomplish there? And then you're not even thinking about the back and forth. If they don't get it right the first time, is way more time consuming. So spend the extra few minutes to make that brief really great, and you're going to get the most out of your creators. The brands that do the best creator content are the ones that give them the most amount of information and set them up for success. When brands rush the process of coordinating with a creator, they are not going to get the best results, and both sides, both parties are going to be disappointed, and you're going to be behind on actually scaling your ad account. All right, if this was helpful, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. We are going to be putting out a lot more content here. We are going to be restarting our podcast in the cutting room, but there's a lot of great episodes that you can check out right now. And if you're a brand that is running meta ads and you need help with creator content or studio content, please book a call down below. I would love to chat, see if my team can help you, especially as we're getting ready for the end of the year. I'm Gattozzi, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.